I remember when I started my YouTube channel in my mother's basement at the age of 22. I looked into that camera and I asked myself this question: why in the world am I qualified to press record? So many of us, when we create content, when we look at that camera, whether it's to buy it, whether it's to look at the camera on our phones, or even when we're taking a picture, especially as content creators, we have a lot of imposter syndrome. We say, is the camera even meant for me? And the only thought I have for all of you listening to this is the camera's for all of us. You don't need to be Brene Brown. You don't need to be Tony Robbins. When was the last time you opened the camera on your phone and sent a 20-second video message to the person that you love the most in your life, showing gratitude for them? That's what the power of the camera is. It's not about being a big YouTuber. It's about using a tool that technology has given us to scale our impact to the people that we love.
Well, welcome back to the Professional Rule Breaker Show, and I am your host, Kathy Walterhouse. And today I have to say, I have somebody that I am super excited to interview because I am a huge fan of his. So this person that is going to be coming up here is a communications coach. And he's an avid YouTuber, and his channel is called MasterTalk, where he provides free resources on mastering communications. And I saw this quote that I absolutely love. It is, and I don't know where this quote was, but I saw this quote. It says, "I believe the next Elon Musk is a 7-year-old girl who can't afford a communications coach. So it's my duty to provide her with free resources." So welcome to the show, Brenden. Your last name is Kumarasamy, right? Is that how you pronounce
Everything.
it?
Absolutely, Kathy. What an amazing introduction. I appreciate the kind words, and thanks for having me.
Oh, I'm so excited that you're here. So I want to start first off, because it looks like, at the university, you used to do a lot of communication type competitions. So how on earth did you go from there to having a YouTube channel that is very, very successful?
The answer is it was an accident. So when I was in college, to your point, I was studied accounting, which is literally the opposite of what I'm doing today.
Yeah, that
And
is.
so I had no intention of being a communication coach. I didn't even know that was a profession.
Right.
Especially growing up as a kid, I didn't grow up with much. So for us, the release, from poverty was the education system. Get a job as an engineer, become an accountant, become a doctor. Those were kind of the paths presented in front of me. So when I went to business school and I started learning about case competitions, which is essentially professional sports for nerds, while the guys my age are playing rugby or football, I was doing these competitions mostly to get a job in accounting.
Okay.
And then as I was competing in them, I accidentally developed a talent in communication coaching because I was coaching all of the kids, mostly for free, on how to communicate so they would win competitions. And then I realized when I was 22 that a lot of the information I was sharing with them that I was kind of making up on the spot, to be honest, wasn't really available for free online for people to consume. And that's what sparked the idea for MasterTalk.
Okay. Well, I'm glad that you did. So let's talk about public speaking. Is there like some sort of mindset that you need to have to be successful in public speaking?
I love that question. I would say for me, Kathy, it starts with two things. One is how do we define communication in public speaking? And the second one is the mindset around it. So for me, the way I think about it is communication is how do we talk about a specific outcome for a specific audience and achieve it? So that means it's not necessarily always a podcast interview or speaking on a stage. It could be raising our children, trying to get a client to buy our services on a one-on-one strategy call, the way we order food at a restaurant. That's all communication. So now the next piece is the mindset around it. To keep it really simple, I think the biggest challenge right now that we see in the world is that mindset is really negative. It's filled with scarcity. Oh my God, I can't do this. This sucks. I don't want to speak. And it becomes a chore. So for me, the question that I use to reframe ourselves is how would your life change if you became an exceptional communicator? So when we start with that question in mind and that frame, it opens up possibility and we get excited to practice it.
I think that is a really great question to ask because there's a lot of people out there that are really scared of public speaking and that are in the business world. And whether they're in sales or whatever, but they're really scared. Some of them consider themselves to be introverts. So is that what you tell, I guess, introverts, start with that question and maybe it just opens them up?
Right. So the question applies for all of us, but for introverts in particular, it works really well. But there's also another point that I love to emphasize with that specific community, since that's probably 80-90% of the people who watch my content and engage with me. So I always like to say triple down on your strengths because there's a lot of strengths that introverts have as communicators that extroverts like me struggle with, and they're actually better than us. So let's communicate them out really quickly. The first one is listening. Because introverts speak less on average, Kathy, it's a
Mhm.
lot easier for them to listen and to change the way that they speak based on the audience's feedback. Extroverts like me, we talk a lot. So it took me many years to master listening. That's why I make a good guest, not so much a host like you. So that's the first piece. The second one is that introverts are really good at pausing. Pausing is the most important skill in communication, but because introverts speak less on average, naturally, they say less, so it's easier for them to go on a stage and pause. Extroverts like me love to fill up space. So let's say we're at an event together and there's a space in the conversation. I
Right.
immediately want to fill it up and go, "What's your favorite color?" So it's not ideal. And then the last piece is accessibility. So a lot of people think that extroverts are the best communicators. Not necessarily. Let's say we compare Brene Brown and Gary Vaynerchuk. I love Gary Vee. I'm a massive fan of his. But when you're an extroverted speaker, you polarize your audience. So you either love the guy or you don't. But nobody says, "I hate Brene Brown," because if you do, the
Right.
cops will come to your house. So
That's so
that's the
true.
key.
That's true. I love her. Actually, I love both of them as well. But it's really interesting just listening to you because I'm a sales expert. That's my sweet spot. And as I'm listening to what you're saying, when those three things that you mentioned are so important in sales, especially the first two. Listening, because there's so many people out there that just spew all the features and benefits and they don't even ever take the time to listen to the customer. And then pausing. I think when you pause, and correct me if you're wrong. So let's say you're doing a presentation and you pause. I feel when you pause, people all of a sudden kind of move in. They want to listen. So I think that works great in sales too. If you take a moment to pause, like as if you're thinking or whatever it is, it has the same effect as well as, accessibility, being out there and all of that. But I absolutely love that. Love that. So, is there a way, because now, ever since COVID, so much went online, whether it's a business meeting, before that you're out going to see customers, or even presentations, group presentations, it's gone online. So how can we become better online? Because it's still happening, maybe not as much as it had been a year ago, but it's still happening.
To your point, you're absolutely right, Kathy. So now the transition has become hybrid. So online has gained a lot of popularity over the last years. And now, especially now that we're entering a recession, a lot of business owners would rather opt in for the online meeting than
Mhm.
paying flights to in person. So online's definitely here to stay. So how do we master it? It's still the same principles as an in-person presentation, but there's three additional differences that I'll add. The first one is eye contact. So when you're in person, you generally move your head to look
Mm.
into the eyes of the different people. So your body moves a lot when you're in person. Not so much online. Whether you're speaking to one or 10,000 people, you're only supposed to look in one area 90% of the time, which is the camera lens, which is what I'm doing now in this interview,
Right.
because you're giving the illusion that you're looking at everyone directly. So it's a different mindset shift. That's one. The second piece is energy. Let's face it, Kathy, it's a lot easier to show up with energy if I can give you a high five, we can get lunch after, if I'm in person with 100 different people, or if I'm doing
Right.
this interview in person. So the goal is, and rather the mindset that we want to have, is bring more energy in person, learn to do that, and transfer as much of that energy in person as possible back online. That's second tip. And the third one is simply accessibility to audience. If we're in person and I want your feedback, it's really easy. There's no friction. You're right in front of me. So you can
Right.
say, let's go get lunch and talk about it. Online is very difficult. So you need to force yourself to get on calls with people.
Right. Right. And even when you're on a call with people, asking questions to get that feedback, because sometimes, I find that if you're just doing a bunch of talking and you don't like really engage the audience just goes away, or they go to sleep, or they go do something else, maybe with, headphones in or whatever. And they're not, they're kind of like half listening. So that's really great. And I agree. So can we just go back a little bit to eye contact? So eye contact is really important online. And yeah, exactly what you said. On stage, you're looking in all these different places. But I find that some of the people that I've actually coached, they struggle with that online. Like they're looking down, they're not looking at the camera, or they're looking away because they feel really uncomfortable looking at the camera. Is there any tricks that you can give as far as that goes?
I think the most important one is the one that you're doing with your clients, is just calling it out for sure, right? Holding them accountable to it, which I'm sure you do very well. But the other piece that's more fun is there's a couple of strategies that can help. So one is you can put a post-it note
Mhm.
next to the lens that has an arrow that says "Look here or else." That's more sarcastic. You could have a picture of your family or a favorite food of yours that you could always look at that's next to the lens. And the last piece is there's it's a little bit more complicated, but there's a way to set up your camera in a way where when you look directly, the camera, it's a lot easier for you because the screen is near the lens, but that takes a
Right.
little bit more setup time.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I heard something in one of your talks on YouTube where you talked about um, public speaking is more, or I don't know if it's more, but it's equally the same, the journey versus the end result, or
Hmm.
the end. Tell me, or the destination. Tell me what you mean by that.
Right. So I would say, based on what I think I got from that video, what I said is what by journey and destination, it's really important for us to understand the end game and the process within that end game. So what do I mean here? It's really difficult for you to measure progress in communication. Let me give you an example, Kathy. So let's say me and you're running a marathon, as an example, and you're really committed. You're like, I'm going to run this marathon, but I'm really lazy. I was like, oh, geez, I don't want to run this marathon. But you wake up every morning at 5 a.m., you're banging on my door. You're like, we're going to run today, Brenden.
Right.
So I have that accountability with you. But the other piece is I can visualize finishing the race. So when the marathon's over, you're probably going to get like top three. I'll be in the bottom pack, but at least I'll finish. Right. So when I finish the
Don't worry, I'll be in
marathon,
the bottom with you.
so we'll celebrate together.
That's
But
right.
when we pass the race, it's a clear, tangible accomplishment. Okay, we finished the marathon. What does that look like in communication? And the answer is it's a lot more vague. It's, do I remove my filler words, my ums and ahs? Is it my
Mm,
icons gone better? So it's very difficult to measure. So what I mean here by journey and destination is for us two things, is for us to one, be clear about the destination through questions like how would your life change if you're an exceptional communicator, but the journey piece of that is then figuring out what are the specific milestones that we can hit to encourage us to keep going in the journey, kind of like a weight loss program. If you lose 5 pounds, well then you're like, okay, now I can lose 50 or whatever the number is.
right, right. Yes, I absolutely love that. So tell me what you have seen to be the biggest mistakes in public speaking.
I would say for one, there's only one. It's the
Really?
biggest one.
Okay.
Well, one that I like to focus on. I'm sure there's many, right? There's like probably 25, but that overwhelms people. So I would say the most important one is consistency. So let me give you an example.
Okay.
Let's say we take the random word exercise, which is the easiest. So just as a frame, communication for me is like juggling 18 balls at the same time, Kathy. So one of those balls is eye contact, one of them is filler words, one of them is facial expressions, and the list goes on. So for me, the question becomes, what are the three easiest balls to juggle to build momentum? Because if we try and juggle all of it, it just falls to the ground. So ball number one in my 18 ball analogy is the random word exercise. You take a random word like a light bulb,
Mhm.
like ceiling, like home, like journey, like destination, and you create random presentations out of thin air on the spot. But the beauty of the random word exercise is it's not about doing it well, it's about doing it a lot. Kind of like the gym. It's not about
Okay.
knowing how to lift, 500 pounds on your first day. It's more impressive to go, wow, you're going to the gym consistently 5 times a week. And the problem with most of us listening to this episode is they'll think about the random word exercise. Maybe they'll do it once and that's it. Whereas the top 1% of your audience is actually booking 15 minutes in their calendar every single day to do the random word exercise 5 times a day. And if you do that for a year, you're definitely on another level with your communication.
Wow. So that's a great way to improve your communication. So, and try to be in the top 1%. So it's, you take a random word and you set a timer, you just start doing a presentation about flowers. I have flowers on my desk and they're beautiful and they're orange and and you just keep on going on. Is that how you do it? Okay.
That's correct. And I'm happy to demonstrate if you want, Kathy.
Let's do that. Let's do that.
Absolutely.
I would love from the master himself. I would love to see. Do you want me to come up with a word?
Yep, pick any. Just don't pick flowers because you already said that before.
Let's do camera.
Camera, absolutely. I remember when I started my YouTube channel in my mother's basement at the age of 22. I looked into that camera and I asked myself this question. Why in the world am I qualified to press record? So many of us, when we create content, when we look at that camera, whether it's to buy it, whether it's to look at the camera on our phones, or even when we're taking a picture, especially as content creators, we have a lot of imposter syndrome. We say, is the camera even meant for me? And the only thought I have for all of you listening to this is the camera's for all of us. You don't need to be Brene Brown. You don't need to be Tony Robbins. When was the last time you opened the camera on your phone and sent a 20-second video message to the person that you love the most in your life, showing gratitude for them? That's what the power of the camera is. It's not about being a big YouTuber. It's about using a tool that technology has given us to scale our impact to the people that we love. So I encourage all of you listening to this, the next time it's one of your friends' birthdays, open your camera and send them a 20-second video note just saying how much you appreciate having them and watch it change the world.
Wow. I was going to say, holy moly. Let me just use that word. That was amazing. Wow. I think I'm definitely, I feel that I'm a pretty good communicator, but I'm definitely going to add that to my calendar. Wow. That's why you're the master.
Thanks, Kathy. And the point I always like to drive is I've done the exercise 3,000 times, literally. That's why I'm able to do this well. That's why Alex Hormozy always says that it's not about doing the extraordinary thing, but rather the ordinary thing for an extraordinarily long period of time.
Mhm.
If somebody did this 5 times a day, which actually takes 5 minutes, I just say 15 so people book more time. If you do that for a year, you'll have done that more than 1,800 times. It is unreasonable to think that the 1,800th time you do this exercise is worse than the first one. So just keep doing it and you'll improve really quickly too.
Absolutely. I'm reading a book called Winning, and there's an example in there about Kobe Bryant, how he would wake up every morning at 4 o'clock in the morning. Actually, he would be at the gym at 4 o'clock in the morning, shooting free throws, shooting, whatever thing that he missed in the last game, perfecting it so that he would never miss it again. And I think that example that you showed is so similar to that is, do this exercise so that you're so comfortable And, you can, I wouldn't say necessarily perfect it, because I think a lot of times, at least in presentations, sometimes the imperfect is even better. The things that can just come out or whatever are even better, and you can connect better, but it's the same concept. So bravo. I mean, that was pretty amazing. I'm definitely putting that in my calendar. So I want to ask you about something I saw on your YouTube channel, MasterTalk. The title grabbed me. It's the 3 lessons I learned from dancing for presentations. So I was like, okay, I need to have you talk about this. So tell me.
You have really done your homework, Kathy. You're asking me
I
very
always do my
specific
homework.
questions. I love it. It's very good.
Hey, it's all for my audience, it's all for them.
Well, you're doing a fantastic job with it. So dancing, the context is I really like dancing. I'm not very good at it,
Me
if I'm being
too. Me
honest.
too. I love dance. That's why it caught my
Yeah.
eye.
But it's just one of the things I do to re-energize myself. So in between meetings, let's say I got a lot of interviews in a day, a lot of sales calls, a lot of coaching. I just do a couple of dance moves in the middle of my meetings to keep myself energized. And the reason I tried relating it to speaking, and this is me just having fun with it, there obviously isn't clear correlations. I just went for that and created a video that made sense out of it. But I'd say the most important one is taking risk. So my philosophy is always, especially for my more advanced clients, is if you do something that's much harder than the situation you're presented in front of, that situation suddenly becomes a joke. So dancing is a great example of that. If you can dance just on your own without the fear of judgment, it's really easy for you to deliver a boardroom presentation. It becomes almost a joke. And let me add on top of that, another fun fact about me is I speak 3 languages, but I can karaoke in 8.
Oh, wow.
And I spend 30 to 45 minutes a week. It's actually one of my routines that I don't recommend to the general public, but something I do a lot. I actually rap quite frequently. So I'll open a verse from a different rapper and I'll just copy their pacing. Yeah.
Wow. Do you have that posted anywhere? I'd love
No,
to
and for
hear it.
because of copyright infringements, that's why I'm
Oh,
always iffy about that. But yeah, I should figure out how to work around
something,
it.
even just like something that you normally say, whatever it might do, you might say, and just put it to rap. That would be so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting that you said that, you dance or, in between. It's exactly what I do. Like before this podcast, I had music on because I had a bit of a break from my previous podcast, the interview, and same thing. I was dancing all around because I think, again, you got to bring that energy. And it just puts you in a great mindset. So you got to find something, whether it's dancing or something else, that will put you into a mindset, to start your day or to before you're going to be doing something big or whatever. It would be kind of interesting though. Never done that before speaking on stage. So that would be interesting to do. Have you done it?
Dancing, it's a great question. For me, I actually have a very specific routine whenever I get on stage for a big one. If it's just a regular presentation, yeah, I'll probably just dance or do something else before the presentation. But for my big gigs in the year, I actually do the opposite.
Okay.
So I like
I
I'm
want to hear. Tell me what you do.
Yes, sure. And I don't recommend this, okay, because everyone has their own routines. Like Tim Ferriss likes drinking a Diet Coke before he presents. Like,
Huh.
I don't think that's the right answer. Tony Robbins is on the trampoline before he gives keynotes.
And doing his
Right.
voice exercises. Yeah. Uh-huh.
Right. So I don't do any of that. For me, it's more I'm actually very quiet, which is very hard for me to do because I'm one of the most extroverted people you'll ever meet. I love to talk, hence Master Talk, so I can talk all day. But the point is that an hour, a few hours before the workshop, I actually live in silence. So I put a
Okay.
nice tie on, I put all my attire together, and I really just do breathing work
Okay.
so that I'm reminded that this is really important. I need to ace it.
Okay. That's interesting that you do breathing work because one trick, and I've taught this to people that mostly in the corporate world where you have to go up, let's say you're giving a big presentation. A lot of times they'll have something, a podium, they'll have something or whatever. And I always say, as you're walking up, wherever it is, whichever direction, because nobody's going to see you really do this, just take a really deep breath. And as you're turning around or you're facing the audience, just let it go. And it just centers you. so that you have that moment of calmness, whether or not you get really nervous after that, but it just seems to, at least for me, that works for me. So I'd love to hear that you do the breathing and you're kind of quiet about that as well. So, well, I love everything that we've spoken to. I'd love to have you on the show sometime again in the future because there's so much that I could talk to you about. But I want to ask you, so, are you working on anything right now and where can people find you?
Absolutely, Kathy. Thanks so much for having me on. Such a pleasure. So, two ways to keep in touch. The first one is definitely the YouTube channel. So, people can go to MasterTalk in one word. You'll have access to hundreds of free videos on how to communicate ideas effectively. And the second way to keep in touch, if you want to see me apply all the tips we talked about live on a Zoom call, I do a free workshop every 2 weeks that people can access at rockstarcommunicator.com.
Okay, fantastic. Hey, I probably will come and join you for one of those Zoom calls as
Of
well.
course.
Well, thank you so much, Brenden. I really appreciate having you on this podcast. It's just been fun having you. And like I said, I hope to have you on again soon. And for everyone that's listening, please share this episode because there's so many people out there I know need some help with public speaking. It can help you everywhere, right? It can help you if you're ordering something at the restaurant or if you're on a Zoom call or if you're going on a big stage. And also, if you like this episode, please give us a 5-star review. So again, thank you, Brenden.
Thanks, Kathy.